All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran, and thank you so much for listening to the show, for watching the show, however you are consuming this. I greatly appreciate you. Of course, if you're not doing so already, please make sure you're subscribed on the video side on YouTube and Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure that you are following the show. It really helps us continue to grow. Today's show is presented, as always, by the law offices of William Mattar. Heard in a car, call William Mattar, 444-4444. Call William Mattar today to get the compensation that you deserve. This is our weekly midweek podcast here, which means, as usual, I'm joined by a good buddy from SB Nation, Buffalo Rumblings, of course, being part of the SB Nation umbrella. Matt Warren, what's going on? It is a cold Tuesday. Whether we're recording this Tuesday, you're going to listen to this on Wednesday. Guess what? It's still going to be cold.
It's really cold.
It is really cold here in Western New York. It's still early-ish December, and this is the type of frigidness that's typically reserved for like late January or February. It is freezing out right now, man. What's up?
Yeah, there's been several years that, we don't get snow that sticks until after Christmas. And so like the fact that we've had it since Thanksgiving is, it's not my favorite, but that's okay. I mean, we've only gotten 4 inches of snow since Thanksgiving here. I know that folks, out towards Lake Erie are dealing with a lot worse. I did want to say George is here too, my dog George. By the way, when you let kids name animals, they tend to name them like things like George Washington, and so there we go.
I remember last year. My memory sucks, but I do remember this. Last year around this time, we had such a mild in Buffalo anyway, a mild December, and I remember saying we are going to pay for this, and we did. So maybe the silver lining in all this, if you want to be a glass half full type person, is that by getting a head start on it being, like I said, frigid cold right now, not a ton of snow, but, snow on the ground, then maybe we're ahead of the game a little bit. Maybe it'll balance out a little bit as opposed to last year where we just got crushed once it got to be January. It felt like it was never going to end either.
Let's cool down those Great Lakes and not get as much lake effect.
That'd be nice. All right, so I have to say this because the last 2 weeks now, Matt and I record this show late Tuesday morning for a Wednesday podcast release. On the video side, typically this will go up that night, so this will be up Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Well, why do I say that? Because something can happen, and funny enough, the last couple of weeks after we've recorded, something has happened with the Bills. Last week, it was Darius Slay, which happened after we were done recording. The week before that, it was Brandon Cooks signing with the Bills, literally right after we got done recording. So who the hell knows if something's going to happen here that we don't talk about today. But not Bills related, but this is really interesting if you're a football fan, period. By the time you listen to this on Wednesday, 44-year-old Philip Rivers may be with the Indianapolis Colts. He is as we're recording this, he is working out with them and meeting with the team today. Daniel Jones, torn Achilles. Richardson still hurt. Riley Leonard got played last week. He got hurt. Philip Rivers, who is eligible for the Hall of Fame this coming year, by the way, as of right now anyway, is working out for the Colts. We might be playing in a league, dude, where Philip Rivers might end up playing quarterback for the Colts at some point. How crazy is that?
A few things. First of all, he's a grandfather, which I think is hilarious. He's there's no player in the NFL older than me. And so that would change if Philip Rivers came back, and that always makes me feel better about myself. Like I could like I could theoretically be in the NFL if I was in much better shape and smarter. So all those things are fun. I do think that the Colts, are in a good position, like as a team, other than that quarterback position. Obviously Anthony Richardson's hurt. So they don't have that to fall back on. It just reminds me of the old Tom Moore, the old offensive coordinator for the Colts. One time they asked him how come Peyton Manning's backup doesn't get any practice during the week. And he's like, well, if Peyton gets hurt, we're fucked and we don't practice fucked. And they're pretty much fucked right now. So Sorry for my colorful language, Mom. I know my mom's going to listen and give me crap for dropping an F-bomb, but that's what he said. I'm quoting him. Okay. So
direct quote. Well, you know what's crazy about the Colts? I feel bad for them in a way. A month ago, they got one loss. They were 7-1 or 8-2. Mm-hmm. They trade 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner to solidify their Super Bowl run this year. That felt like an overpay at the time, but you could also say, hey, man, you know what? You just got yourself a true legit lockdown number 1 corner. Fast forward a handful of weeks later. First of all, Sauce Gardner's hurt. You can never project for that when you make a trade, but still, he's hurt. He got hurt already. And now Phillip Rivers may be the quarterback for the Colts. You want to talk about a ship that is sinking quickly. In fact, if my math is right, man, the Colts aren't even in the playoffs. If the playoffs started, if this was playoff week, the Colts went from being maybe the number 1 seed to they were up 2 scores in the fourth quarter at Arrowhead a handful of weeks ago. Well, man, that really started a domino effect of bad things to happen for them. But anyway, I thought it was a gag, by the way, on Twitter on Monday night. I had to go look and make sure it was like the real Adam Schefter, not some kind of parody. I'm just...
Right. Even Mike Garafolo wrote that into the tweet. He's like, this is not a joke. Like,
who's an old Buffalo Bill that I wouldn't mind having back right now? I mean, they got plenty of old Buffalo Bills on this roster as it is, but...
Lorenzo Alexander surfaced this week, so he's the first name that popped in my brain because they need some pass rush help.
One real quick thing here, and then we're going to dive into what we do every week here on the show when I have Matt, is we're going to talk about the Bills positionally. We'll go to last week's game, talk about what they did, and we always mix in some current and, future talk with these positions as well. And ultimately, as always, Matt is going to assign a grade for each position. And then we'll also take a look at the Bills' next opponent, a big one, of course, the New England Patriots. And one thing I will say about this game is I don't know if it's a big game yet. It's a big game in a way no matter what, but it might not matter. Like, even if the Bills win, it still may not matter because the Bills need help. But anyway, it is. You know what? I take that back. It is a big game. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Here's what I was going to tell you.
Okay.
Real quick. Everyone out there, if you're not, feel fortunate that you are not an emotionally invested Buffalo Sabres fan because it has happened yet again. It is, I never know what day it is. It's December 9th as we record this. They are dead last in the Eastern Conference. They're all but buried already in the playoff race. They're going nowhere fast. And I know they play on Tuesday night. Maybe they beat Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. Usually that's the way it goes when I blast this team on the show. But even if they do, it doesn't matter. This team stinks. They're dead last in the conference. The owner won't talk. The GM is nowhere to be found. He doesn't talk barely ever. It's going nowhere fast. Lindy Ruff is clearly frustrated with this team, having 3 goalies still on the roster, which is just ridiculous. Guys get hurt all the time. They're not playing hard. I listened to a clip from a national broadcast from the others, not from a Sabres broadcast, because the Sabres, God forbid, they ever say something negative about the team. Bagula will fire everybody on the MSG broadcast, but they just said that they play with the level of they don't give a crap. Like, there's a level of I don't care to this team. There's nights where they go on and they look disinterested in playing. And here we are 15 years later. I guess if you don't care about hockey and you're only a football guy watching the show or listening to the show, the only comparison that is fair to make is just imagine spending the last 15 years being a New York Jets fan, because that's what it's like being a Sabres fan. And I would argue that it would even be worse. Like, the Jets have at least done plenty of big things. They never seem to work, getting Aaron Rodgers. They've done a lot of things. They just never work. But Matt, I know you've you care about the Sabres a little bit, they're not going to ruin your day. You know what I mean? Like the Bills can ruin our day. The Sabres ain't going to ruin your day, but they're checked out already. It's just such a disgraceful, dysfunctional, disgusting organization, and it makes me sick to my stomach to even talk about them.
I just bought my first Sabres tickets in, gosh, probably, I mean, it was before my kids were born. So like at least 13, at least like probably 15 years. My brother and I went to a game before we had kids, and like that's how long it's been. So like, no, it's in March. We've got a hockey tournament in Buffalo, and so for my son, and so we're gonna go to the Sabres game, spend the night, do all that.
Use the tickets, because if you decide, you know what, I don't want to go to this game, I'm going to sell them in March. You'll be lucky to be able to get a single order of wings.
Yeah.
And pick your place downtown. Go to Gamesgate. What you get for those tickets won't even cost you, or won't even cover a plate of wings.
We're obviously going as a group with the whole hockey team. And so like we're paying full price for the tickets now. And I was like, guys, we're going to be able to get like these for pennies on the dollar in a few months. But I did not do that.
This organization, like the drought, I mean, obviously the drought is something, because that was 17 years. The Sabres are about to be 15 years now.
Yeah.
As somebody who's a fan of both teams, I think the Sabres drought is worse than the Bills. I don't know. There was something most of the time about the Bills, even if you lose all the time, maybe like, what's the term I'm looking for? Maybe lovable losers. Like,
yeah, I get that.
It never felt like an unlikable. The Sabres are an unlikable organization. I think that's the worst part. The players don't take any accountability. They're not likable. The GM sucks. The owner, the same owner, of course, is completely absent. It's brutal.
And in the NHL, don't like more than half the teams make the playoffs?
Yes.
Where it was
16
like
teams.
At least in the NFL, it was like only a third, like 12 for the Bills playoff drought. At least it was 12 out of 30 or 32 during that playoff drought. Whereas like it's, now it's 14, but obviously,
8 teams out of 16 in the Eastern Conference make the playoffs, and it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Not once did you even luck into a playoff spot. And the funny thing is they've only contended, like they've only been in the mix. You said March you're going to go to a game. Maybe 3 or 4 times in 15 years, the Sabres have even been in the mix going into the last month of the season. Anyway, I'll move on, but it's just, it's such a deplorable, disgusting, like I said, organization. And it really angers me to even think about them, but I couldn't help but say something. All right, let's talk about something more fun. And that is the Buffalo Bills, of course, last Sunday. I mean, that's pretty far removed, but still a big win for the Bills over the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's do our positional analysis like we always do, and we'll start with the quarterback. A fun week to be a fan of Josh Allen, because, boy, did he put on a show. Not just even statistically, just watching him play. It was just cinema. It was fun to watch. 22 of 28, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he also ran for 78 yards and a touchdown, a 40-yard touchdown, which I believe is the longest touchdown run of his career. Might even be a team record for a quarterback touchdown run.
It is both. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, his stats were great. The plays he made were great. If you were presenting him for MVP this year, he's not going to win it. But if you were going to present him for MVP, this game there'd be a lot of material, a lot of content to pull from this game to put into his highlight reel. Man, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't wear it on Sunday, so I wore it today. It's my dashing through the snow shirt. Like it's my Josh Allen running through the snow. Because here we go full screen, dashing through the. So it's like Josh Allen running over the snow. Yeah, great visuals, obviously. And just his decision making has been so great. But then, like on those 4th down plays, and they had several of them in this game, including the touchdown to Shakir. Like, he knows when it's time to push the button and when it's time to play it safe. And that throw to Shakir, I would not have liked on 1st down or 2nd down, but on 4th down, when he's getting pressured and he zips it past that defender's ear. I watched plenty of people talking about it at the, in the intervening couple days here since the game. And it's like, how many quarterbacks could attempt that? How many quarterbacks should attempt that? And how many quarterbacks would attempt it? And like Josh Allen's like the short list for all of them. And so it's just, it was nuts. It was a great day. I'm sure he's still frustrated too. And that makes what he's doing even more impressive because they didn't have one pass beyond 20 yards past the line of scrimmage. Even the pass interference call to Brandon Cooks was 19 yards down the field. So they haven't been able to push the ball down the field. Everything's congested. Like I said, I'm sure he's frustrated by it, but he's still going out there and making good decisions and good plays. And you just have to give him all the credit in the world. I gave him an A+. I don't know why you wouldn't give him an A+ for this game.
What are we doing? If this is a report card and you're a teacher, if he doesn't get an A+, what are we doing here? You said something that I completely agree with. When to go for it and when to kind of pull it back a little bit. And that's kind of been the difference when he plays these great quarterbacks in a lot of these games, including this one. You know what I mean? He doesn't make, well, he does, but in these games that they win, he's not the one who makes the big mistake. It's the opponent quarterback. You go back to the playoffs last year, Lamar, for the most part, played every bit as good as Josh Allen. He made a ton of plays. The difference was he made a couple backbreaking mistakes. Lamar Jackson, I'm talking about, of course. I think 3 turnovers in that game for Baltimore. 2 of them directly Lamar Jackson's fault. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen is not doing that, or at least he's not doing that when he plays against the best quarterbacks. I saw a stat that is just incredible against Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, and Joe Burrow this year. The Bills and Josh Allen are 4-0 against these teams. He's completed 75% of his passes for over 1,200 yards passing, 17 total touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. He avoids the mistakes, but he also knows when to turn it up. And he always seems to turn up the most, Matt, when he's playing against these type of teams.
Right. Look at the quarterbacks he's lost to. Michael Penix, who's Tua, and then obviously Drake May, who we'll talk about later. And I really like Drake May is certainly entering that conversation as one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL.
Sure.
There's people talking about him for MVP this year. I don't think he's going to win it, but like there's people at least talking about him. So like maybe Josh should start to elevate his game when he's playing Drake May. And like we could start that this weekend. That'd be nice.
You know, I'm going a little bit off topic here, but I just go back to that Atlanta game. And first of all, bad timing playing that team at the wrong time because they were still pretty good at the time and playing confidently. But boy, that game, just if you could have that game back, I mean, you like any of them back. And in fact, you know, you'd rather win an AFC game.
The Dolphins game is the more important one, yeah.
Right, but I never thought they were going to be. They didn't deserve to beat Miami. Okay, right. Miami kicked their ass, so you can't say, whoa, whatever. And obviously, Houston was probably the biggest one because it's a conference game, and you had them on the ropes at the end of the game. Gabe Davis, you know, by ever so slightly doesn't get his feet in bounds. You know what? I'm not going to say they score for sure because who the hell knows if they could get a yard against that team when they needed it. But that Atlanta game, it's just such an inexcusable, ugly loss where they just couldn't play any worse. But yeah, this was a fun Josh Allen game. If you're a fan of football and you didn't have a horse in the race and you don't have the Sunday ticket and you were watching the Bills-Cincinnati game, PK on my show yesterday from Buffalo Sports Collective said it perfectly. This was the game you'd want fans to see. Like, if you're trying to get new fans, Burrow versus Josh, the snow, the picturesque snow, just the quarterbacks going toe-to-toe. It was just such a fun game to watch. James Cook, let's get right to the running backs here. James Cook, this is a tough one, man.
No kidding.
18 carries for 80 yards. He also had 2 catches for 31 yards. I'll get back to the big thing in a second here. Ty Johnson, 2 carries for 25 yards, 2 catches for 14 yards. So 4 catches for 45 yards with the running backs in the passing game, which is becoming clearly, they're going back to that becoming a bigger part of their offense. I absolutely love that. By the way, Ray Davis didn't have a touch.
And they're doing it in big moments. They're doing it on 4th down. They're doing it on got to have it 3rd downs. So it's not like it's accidental. You know, we've seen the swing passes to Ty Johnson and James Cook as checkdowns, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about designed pass plays in big moments. Yes,
100%. So I love that about them, and they're both great out of the backfield. They really are. Ty Johnson slips, and I'm costing him 4 points because he slipped, and of course, the big one, the one drive, James Cook fumbles. We thought it was going out of the end zone. It didn't. They catch a break. Ryan Vandermark had a holding call, so that kind of negated the run itself, which we'll get to him in a few. And then he fumbles again. James Cook, folks, and I have a, what is it, TikTok? I have a TikTok. I have a talk. I don't know what you want to call it. But it's a clip of Joe from Queens and I discussing James Cook potentially having a fumbling problem right now. And if you want to irritate, you want to piss off a Bills fan, talk about James Cook having a fumbling problem. That will immediately elicit responses because Bills fans don't want to hear it because they want to be in maybe a little bit of denial because there's so much wrong about this team. And James Cook's been the best thing about this team this season. And I still believe that for the most part, but I don't know, Matt. I'm sure, I would assume, I know you well enough now, you're going to hold that against him. You're going to ding him for the fumble. So talk about that. And let me ask you too, are you concerned that this is a problem? Is this just a little, kind of a little bit of a fluke what he's going through these last 2 weeks? Because he's had 4 fumbles and 2 lost fumbles just in the last 2 games. And they've cost the Bills a touchdown, by the way, both times. Both his fumbles have led to opponent touchdowns. So they've mattered as well. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, after the game, I messaged you like, grades are going to be fun. Christian Benford A+. I don't know what about the rest of the team. Now, obviously, Josh Allen should have been in that conversation too. But like, James Cook and Ty Johnson were awesome in this game, except for on 4 plays. And it's like, how much do those 4 plays matter in a game of inches like this? A lot. I mean, ask Joe Burrow how important 2 plays were in the outcome of this game. The Bills would have put away the Bengals earlier if either Ty Johnson or James Cook could have scored touchdowns on the 2 plays that you just mentioned. And so that's obviously a really, really, really big deal. They wouldn't have needed Christian Benford to, sail up and make that play that he did, or Josh Allen to put on his cape and make the play that he did, if James Cook and Ty Johnson had just sealed the deal on their 2 plays. So obviously that's important. You also didn't mention James Cook with his false start on 3rd and 3 that turned into 3rd and 8, that turned into 4th and 3 on the 1 4th down they didn't pick up. And so it was another drive killer. So Cook he had 3 legitimate drive killing plays on 2 different drives because the 2 fumbles were on the same drive. So obviously that is a big deal concerning. The fumble stuff from James Cook is obviously concerning. I will mention Sean McDermott didn't sit him down after those, which is sort of a change for Sean McDermott.
Yes.
Based on, obviously when James Cook is a rookie, you're going to treat him differently than when you signed him to a $10 million extension and he's a veteran. And so at least we're seeing Sean McDermott change that about James Cook. I eventually settled on a B for them, but for the running backs, even though they were great, they just had so many potentially game-changing mistakes with the stumble, with the fumble, with the other fumble, with the false start that I just knocked them all the way down to a B.
It's a coaching thing more, but since you brought it up, I loved that Cook fumbled not once, but twice on the same drive, lost the fumble, cost the Bills literally a touchdown. It cost him a touchdown. It was a 14-point swing because the Bengals took the ball and went 80 yards for a touchdown. So that could have really it did swing the game at the time in the Bengals' favor for sure. I did love that Sean McDermott immediately went back. James Cook was back out there the next time the Bills touched the ball. To your point, that shows a lot of confidence and growth in both Sean McDermott and his confidence in James Cook. That said, if we go into Foxboro on Sunday, and let's say in one of the first 2 drives, James Cook fumbles the ball, and that would be a 3rd straight game where he loses a fumble, hypothetically, and we obviously hope that doesn't happen. But if it does that leash get a lot shorter? Do you start seeing a lot more Ray Davis and Ty Johnson if James Cook does this again?
Man, I would hope not, but it's I'm really done predicting Sean McDermott with this particular thing just because I thought I knew what he was going to do. And then Cook took the very next snap and took the ball on the next snap. So I would think they're going to keep him in. He's so dynamic. They're not going to, they just can't do the same offense without him. And so I think you keep him in there even with the fumbles. And just like we kept Josh, not to say that this is exactly the same, but just like when Josh Allen was throwing interceptions, they kept him in the game so that he would, get better. It's not, I don't think it's a learning thing with James Cook and not fumbling the ball. He wasn't being reckless with the ball on at least the second fumble at the goal line. I don't think he was being reckless. The first one where he's reaching for the goal line, Greg Olsen did a really nice job of explaining that on the Fox broadcast. Like, you don't want to reach for the goal line when you're near the sideline.
He was phenomenal, by the way. On the
I love Greg. He's my favorite. He really is.
What a treat that duo was with Joe Davis, man. But yeah.
And then moving the Bills to 1:00 instead of 4:25 means we got Olsen instead of Tom Brady. And I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a quick break. And actually, to your point, I agree with you about James Cook, but if he has another fumble this week, then I think you have a problem. Let's put it that way. And maybe it starts to become mental in his head. Maybe it starts to affect how he plays football. I'm not saying that Sean McDermott would bench him. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe you don't go to him with as much confidence in certain situations because of that. Hopefully it doesn't come down to when this is just a little bit of a rough patch. Great players have rough patches, and right now, when it comes to protecting the football, that's what James Cook has going on. Anyway, quick break, come back, and we'll get through plenty more here with Matt Warren. All right, back here talking Buffalo, presented by the law offices of William Attar. Heard in a car, call William Attar, 444-4444. Matt Warren, SB Nation with me. As usual, we're going through our weekly Bills positional analysis. Wide receivers, not a lot there, man. Gabe Davis, 2 catches for 27 yards. He did have a 4th down catch for 13, I believe it was, on early in the game. Khalil Shakir, 2 catches for 22 yards. A touchdown where Josh Allen, I don't think you can make a better play and throw than Josh Allen did on that. But anyway, that's his number line. Shavers, 1 grab for 16 yards. Keon Coleman, 2 grabs for 16 yards. I was looking it up. No one, per ESPN Next Gen Stats, there was no separation in this game. 2.3 yards average separation was no one had more than that. Brandon Cooks, 15 routes, 0 targets, although there was one where there was a pass interference, like you said. And Shavers, just 1 target in this game. I don't think he had any the week before. So
right.
A very ho-hum, quiet game for the receivers, which is just incredible to me because the receivers do nothing and you score 39 points. Well, 7 of that directly to the defense for sure. But it was still a pretty good offensive game, but not really because of the wide receivers.
Yeah, I'm in the holiday spirit. I gave them a B-. And you could easily convince me to move them down into the C range. They're still mid. I really liked that Shavers catch. Like you said, he's only been targeted once in the last 2 weeks. I did bump them a little bit up because, the Keon Coleman quick hitter pass off the check with me with Josh Allen is nice to see again. For whatever reason, the Bengals decided not to press on that play. And I do think it was a little bit because of the snow. They're just worried about footing and all that other stuff. So picking up a quick hitter with Keon Coleman, just free money. Brandon Cooks was blocking all the way down the field on that Josh Allen touchdown, which we need to give him some credit for. He just ran his route to just run off the cornerback or the safety. I can't remember what position was guarding him, but he ran him all the way to the 5 and then started blocking. It was just really, really smart and well done to get Josh Allen into the end zone. But I don't have a whole lot of oh, this was awesome. Or, like you said, not a whole lot of separation. That it'll be nice if they can get Josh Palmer back because he can be their most consistent guy, but he has not been consistently on the field. And so hopefully they can be a little bit more healthy going into this home stretch. And, the Gabe Davis of it all, I think people really took a dump on that signing when they added him to the practice squad and then the active roster. And they'd just be so screwed without him right now, even though he wasn't huge in this game. I just wanted to mention Gabe Davis.
Yeah, listen, I know you're not this isn't a prediction show, but I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. If Josh Palmer does get back this week, and again, this is a big game.
Yeah.
Who's out? Is it Brandon Cooks? Is it Keon Coleman? It's one of them two. Tyrell Shavers is not taking a seat. He plays special teams. We know that. I positively do not think they will put out 6 receivers. So somebody sit it. If Josh Palmer gets back, is it Brandon Cooks or is it Keon Coleman?
I would imagine it's Coleman.
Yeah.
They just don't have another speed guy. And even if, like you said, Cooks ran 15 routes, most of them I would assume were verticals and to stretch the defense. And so, or comebacks like we saw in the pass interference. And so they still need that element in their game that nobody else provides. And so I do think it would be Coleman that sits.
Me too. All right, tight ends. Week after week, it just kind of feels like this position just comes out of nowhere and just quietly gobbles up all the good grades. Tight end has been the teacher's pet on this exercise all season long for good reason. Listen, this group had 11 catches for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dawson Knox, 6 catches for 93 yards, a 2-point conversion, a statement literally on the first play of the game, 33 yards over the middle to Dawson Knox, and the offense was off and running. He did fail to hold on to a tough, I'm not going to ding him for that. That was a tough play to make that catch in the end zone. But anyway, Dalton Kincaid returned, limited action, 22 snaps, 20 of those 22 were when the Bills threw the ball, 4 catches for 41 yards, and really nice quick slant touchdown he had. And then Jackson Hawes had a touchdown that you and I could probably catch. But he's not, he does what he does. We all know what he could do in the blocking game. So collectively, this group just continues to shine, man. I don't know why I'm as surprised as I am. I mean, Dawson Knox is a big contract.
Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid is literally a first-round pick. So maybe I shouldn't be so surprised, but they just continue to perform, man. Unlike the receivers, this is a group that you could just count on week to week.
Yeah, you're not surprised I'm giving them an A+. The Jackson Hawes leaky T touchdown was just such a really high IQ play by him. And Greg Olsen, of course, being a former tight end, was great to highlight that and did a really nice job showing fans, why he was just so wide open and no one accounted for him. So it was just a really great play. They're playing really consistently. I was expecting Hawes to have a role when they drafted him, but I think probably every single person out there would not have expected him to get this many snaps and this many targets and just play to this level. It's been a really great position group all season, and I would hope it continues into the playoffs.
Let me share a stat with you. I shared it on the show yesterday in case you missed it. The Bills tight ends this season as a group, okay? So last year, it was Kincaid, it was Knox, and Quinn and Moore. So we'll use those 3 tight ends. Last year, in 17 games, of course, 71 catches, 795 yards, and 4 touchdowns combined from the tight ends. This year, through 13 games, and he still got 4 more games left, obviously, 70 catches, so only 1 less than last year already, 957 yards, which is already 162 yards more than they had all of last year, and 9 touchdowns, which is more than double what the tight ends gave them last year. So the tight end group has just been, like I said, a rock-solid foundation of this offense.
Yeah,
offensive line. Go ahead.
No ding on Quentin Morris, but I think a lot of people were surprised when he wasn't re-signed. And I think the plan that they had coming into this offseason was just executed to perfection at the tight end position.
I remember being borderline a little ornery that they didn't re-sign Quentin Morris. I thought that was a bad move to not re-sign him. Jackson Hawes, I mean, look, when the season's over and we go back and talk about the draft and stuff like that, we're going to, Jackson Hawes is a 5th-round pick. Probably going to move up to Dawson Knox's role, I would think, next year. Maybe they move on from Knox because of the money. Unless they work something out financially, who knows? But whether he's tight end 2 or tight end 3, he's going to play plenty like he is now. And what a great 5th-round steal he has turned out to be. All right, offensive line. Kind of a mixed bag here. So Josh Allen was sacked 3 times, 14 pressures. I looked this up, too, on Next Gen Stats. He was pressured on 38.9% of his dropbacks. Second highest of the season, actually. Yeah. Only the Atlanta game was he under pressure more than he was in this game. But the Bills also ran for 183 yards and 6.3 yards per carry. Of course, Josh Allen ran for 78 of those himself. So, I don't know, man. Tight end was an easy A+, running back a little bit tricky because of a couple plays. I feel like offensive line, this could go either way too. What's your take with the offensive line?
Yeah, I thought he had some pretty good time. There were times when he had 8, 9, 10 seconds to throw on some of those plays. Good rushing stats, like you said. They did get rocked on that 3rd down after the Ty Johnson stumble. which is why Matt Prater had to come out and kick a field goal. They weren't able to pick up. I thought it was like 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, and someone flashed across. I think it was the left guard, and knifed into the backfield to completely blow up the play. They weren't even able to go for it on 4th down after that. So obviously, in some big moments they weren't able to do it, but in others they were. And so, say that 4th down touchdown pass to Khalil Shakir, like Josh Allen had a lot of time, even though he was eventually pressured, and then he did take a roughing the passer penalty on that play as well. He still had a lot of time to get that ball out. So I ended up giving them an A-, but I think I could be convinced to go down to a B based on the pressures that they allowed. Like you said, the pressure percentage. And it's interesting. We'll talk about the defensive ends here in a second. The Bengals were able to get their footing to pressure Josh Allen, but the Bills weren't able to get their footing to pressure Joe Burrow. Like, seems a little bit sussy. And so I gave them an A-, but I could definitely be convinced to move that a little bit lower.
I'm going to convince you to move it a little bit lower because I would give them a B or even a B-. In fact, I'd say probably a B-. First of all, the Bengals defense stinks. So
that's true.
That should not have had that much pressure. Some plays, you're right. Now, there was, he did have time and nobody would get open, and then he would have to start moving and then the pressure would come. But there were other times where the pressure did come quick. Plus, it's tough to, he played left tackle last week in a pinch, and now he had to play right tackle this week in a pinch. But Ryan Vandermark had 2 holding penalties, and one of them cost them because that James Cook fumble, they got lucky. The ball went out at the half-yard line instead of the end zone. But if he doesn't have a holding call on that, the Bills got 1st and goal from the half-yard line. So Ryan Vandermark hurt him there. I know he had another holding penalty. I believe he got beat for a sack early in the 3rd quarter as well. But it's always tough to hold the same standard to a backup guy that it is, say, if Spencer Brown was playing, which, by the way, Spencer Brown, getting him back this week in Foxboro, that would be a big get for sure for the Bills.
You convinced me to move it down, by the way.
I did. Look at that. I'm a good salesperson. Defensive tackle on the other side of the football. Jordan Phillips didn't do much, but he did deflect that ball that A.J. Epinesa intercepted, and that was obviously a huge play in this football game. Ultimately, the Bills went up 2 scores, I believe, after that interception. They did. T.J. Sanders, God, first of all, it's hard to put. Where do you put him?
Right.
He had 15 snaps. I looked it up. 15 snaps. 7 of them were as an edge rusher. He had 1 rep that I saw. In fact, I might have made a clip of it. He flashes a little bit, but all in all, Daquan Jones, 2 tackles. He had 3 quarterback pressures. I've slept on him a little bit this year.
He's the best DC they have.
He has been better than I give him credit for this season. Daquan Jones has been better for sure than I've given him credit for. I'll admit that. Dale Walker, 4 tackles, 3 run stops. He had a really nice hit early in the game, too. No pressures with the pass rush. Like you said, it seemed like nobody could get their footing for the Bills when it came to pressuring the quarterback. Only 1 sack for the game, and it wasn't from the defensive line either. I don't know, kind of a sort of mixed bag. Like, this defense didn't play good. They got a couple big plays, and they didn't play good. So this will be interesting as we go through these. What do you got?
Yeah, and I mean, before I even get to the defensive tackles, like, the Bengals converted on 10 of 12 third downs, man. Like, all of the defense is responsible for that ultimately.
Sure.
Because a lot of those were through the air, and you don't get a pass rush. You don't get great coverage from your cornerbacks. Your safeties are playing, behind the sticks. Like, so it's an everywhere thing. And so, like, I have to spread that negativity in this case around as well with the 10 of 12 third downs allowed. I ended up giving them a B-. In the middle of the game, I didn't feel like they were having a great game. And then you go back and look and you're like, oh yeah, Daquan Jones had 2 quarterback hits. Jordan Phillips had the pass deflection. So like, you can find places to give them credit. And the running game from the Bengals was not great. So, I mean, again, there's good things to look at and point to in this game for the defensive tackles. I do have, like, I am going to talk about TJ Sanders when we get to the defensive end position, just because I thought his play at defensive tackle was fine. So B- for the defensive tackles.
I might be willing to go up slightly.
Okay.
Slightly. Maybe a B. Not much. A B. I think they did a good job From what I could see, and again, I'm no football expert, man, but it seemed like they were getting up blocks a little bit better in this game. They were tying up blockers that were allowing the linebackers and the safeties come up and make clean hits in the running game, to your point. I was concerned about Chase Brown coming in this game. He did score 2 touchdowns, and one of them was a nice catch, but
yeah, it was.
He didn't have the kind of game I was concerned about him having,
Right.
for sure. All right, so we'll flip to the edge. A.J. Epinesa, he had an interception, and it was there to take, and he took it. Good for him. Greg Rizzo, 1 tackle, 5 pressures. I'm almost afraid to say anything besides that he's awesome and is worth the money, because I might get butchered by Bills Mafia on social media if I say anything otherwise, because God forbid I criticize him and question if he's worth the money, because he's a great run defender or edge setter, whatever. He played in this game. That's what I'll say about him. Morgan Fox, 10 snaps, and I'm telling you, I went on all 22 and I loaded up Morgan Fox every play. I watched every single one of them. You could have played Shaq Lawson, Andre Jones Jr., Jerry Hughes. I don't care who it is. He was just out there. Now, what he didn't do, and they didn't try to, they didn't run any misdirection or counters once this game. He didn't get caught pinching inside. Like, he contained edge. So if you want to look for something good, I'd say that. Okay, I guess, but whatever. An uneventful Bills debut for a guy that a lot of people have been clamoring for. Javon Sullivan only played 5 snaps. TJ Sanders played a handful at edge, like you talked about. What do you think here?
Yeah, I don't want to pile on Groot either, but like, he's really running out of time to make a huge impact. Like, they signed him. He had 8 sacks last year. I think he has 3 this year, right? Like, it's just like he's not getting to the quarterback consistently enough. I do like what he's doing in the run game, but like, they're not paying him as the 12th best defensive or edge rusher in the league to be a great run defender. Like, you got to get after the quarterback, son. Let's go.
Especially in a game like this where you don't have Joe Bosa. Like, I understand he's not a double-digit sack guy, and he probably is never going to be. I could live with that. But there's certain moments in certain games where you got to step up and you got to make a big play. But you got to be more than just a guy who could set the edge and defend the run well. That's a good attribute to have, and it's an underrated one, and he doesn't get enough credit for that because, his numbers don't pop. But sometimes you do got to pop. And this was it wasn't one of those games because they won anyway. But you get what I'm saying. Sorry.
Yeah. And then the TJ Sanders of it all, on that Bengals touchdown, the Bills were in cover 0. Sanders had a free look at Joe Burrow, but there was just no way he was ever going to be able to close the gap to Burrow before he threw that ball. And so it's like, if you had any defensive end in there and not TJ Sanders, would that play have gone differently? And I sent it out on Blue Sky at the time, and it's not a ding on Sanders in this case. It's just man, it would be nice to have a defensive end there instead of TJ Sanders.
Sure. What was your grade?
B- for the defensive ends.
I think you're in a good mood, man. I think it's getting a little close to Christmas. You're being in a good mood. Well, you know what? I take that back. AJ Epinesa being there. AJ Epinesa had the second. The Bills had 2 or 3 plays on defense this whole game, and AJ Epinesa was responsible for one of them. So you know what? Maybe that is fair. I changed my mind.
He was also behind the line of scrimmage because he didn't get a great pass rush. So like, let's just also say that. Like,
linebackers, Shaq Thompson played all 56 snaps, 6 tackles. He had a couple thumping hits. Matt Milano, 5 tackles. I thought he played really good. He closed the gap in pass coverage. There was one swing pass. I don't remember. Maybe it was Chase Brown. I can't remember. But somebody, maybe a tight end, someone caught a pass in the left flat, and it was a lot of space. And Milano closed quickly and brought him down one-on-one. Good job there. Dorian Williams just played 11 snaps, and a couple of them were his defensive tackle in that look at Sean McDermott likes to give once in a while. So knowing quote-unquote like impactful plays, so to speak, but I thought, as I'm trying to steer the grader here, I thought they played really solid. I thought this was a solid game for the linebackers.
Yeah, some of the NFL folks, the folks that watch tape around the NFL, are starting to notice the Dorian Williams spy thing, and it's like, did they just spy Joe Burrow on 3rd down, like in the snow? And I'm like, yeah, that's how they do it. They just like pin your ears back. Dorian Williams stands there to make sure that Joe Burrow doesn't pick it up with his legs. And he almost did on that, 3rd and 17 play late in the game where he was able to escape. Like, I don't mind the Dorian Williams spy thing. But anyway, so in this game, Shaq Thompson, obviously very good, really consistent. Milano, I thought, played really well. I gave them a B+. I thought they were super solid. The third down thing is what's holding me back with them.
Yeah, I think B+ is the perfect grade. I thought the issues that the Bills defense had in this game were not the linebackers. I feel like a broken record because we talk about it a lot, but I don't think it's a discussion anymore. I don't think not a discussion. I don't think it's a debate anymore. Shaq Thompson does not come off this field again this season if he's healthy. You cannot take him off the field. And I'm confident that Sean McDermott knows that now at this point.
Yeah, I would think so.
How do you use Bernard if he's back? When he's back? Good question. I mean, does he take Milano's spot? Does he play in certain packages? Like, if it's an obvious passing down, didn't you take Shaq Thompson off and you put Bernard out there? Because he is more athletic and, better at pass coverage, but just all-around linebacker, you cannot take Shaq Thompson off this field. There's just no way. Cornerback. This is interesting. Can one guy carry an otherwise pretty weak group? Because Christian Benford, when people wake up and listen to this on Wednesday, well, it usually comes out around lunchtime, but there is a chance you might be seeing back-to-back AFC defensive player.
That would be very unique.
I don't even know how many times this happened, but I know it doesn't happen often. But one in athletic, he's such a great player, but I don't really know him for his athleticism. You know what I mean? It's always been his stickiness, his intelligence, his physicality that has made him a great corner. Not necessarily the best athlete, but he made a really athletic play, held on to the ball, broke Joe Burrow's tackle, and maybe most impressively, I was waiting for Jamar Chase to hunt him down. And it never happened. Like, Jamar Chase is one of the fastest receivers in the league. And Benford just ran ridiculously. He was like Forrest Gump in the movie when he was returning kickoffs for touchdowns. He just wouldn't stop running. I was like, whoa, he's going to score. Holy shit, I can't believe this just happened. He was awesome. He also had a sack, the only sack in this game. So that led to since he punt late in the second quarter. So that was not a nothing sack. Jamar Chase, no catches on 2 targets, and I think it was 16 matchups against Christian Benford. So, I mean, what more can you say about this guy except this is what you hoped for? He's everything you hoped he could be these last couple of weeks now. So that's the good. But we're talking about positional. We're not talking about just Christian Benford. Trey White played 61% of the snaps. He got beat for a touchdown, gave up 3 catches on 4 targets. Max Hairston played 41% of the snaps. He also gave up a touchdown. T. Higgins victimized both of them. In fairness, T. Higgins is going to victimize a lot of great corners in the league. So you kind of factor that in a little bit. But those guys, okay. But they both gave up touchdowns. Teron Johnson gave up a touchdown. I'm sick of talking about it every week with Teron Johnson. It's just time to accept the fact that he's not the same football player that he used to be. The all-pro days of Teron Johnson are long gone at this point. And now you just hope that he could be serviceable and not a liability out there. I don't know how to use Cam Lewis in this scenario. I kind of use him as a safety because he played a mostly dime defense and he played some safety when Cole Bishop had cramps. So me personally, I have Cam Lewis at safety, but if you wanted to throw him in at corner, do you too? Do you think primarily he played safety? Should I include him in the safeties?
I have Cam Lewis in my safeties. Yeah.
All right. So we'll leave him out of this group here. So you got, the greatness of Benford against a unit that otherwise was just not good.
Yeah. He was an A+. I loved after the game how he admitted he wasn't supposed to leave his feet on the interception. Yeah. He's like, God told me or whatever. Like, and I really, really thought Joe Burrow was going to get the shoestring too. And I was like already pre-irritated when he stumbled and got the foot swipe and then he kept his feet under it. But I'm like, yes. So I was very, very happy when he scored that touchdown just because every step of the way, I didn't expect it to happen. And then I did. My dog, who, by the way, sleeping here, was barking very loudly at me responding to that Christian Benford touchdown. So yeah, the rest of the cornerbacks get a C- from me. So Taron Johnson's still not himself. T. Higgins was out physicaling both Trey White and Max Hairston. And so obviously he does that. That's one of the things that, he's known for. So Trey didn't have the recovery speed. Hairston didn't have the physicality. Overall, I give the position group a B.
Yeah.
It's harder to give them a higher grade with how the rest of the group played.
I agree. Christian Benford saved them from having to have your mom sign your F on your essay. When you come home and you got to bring your report card home because you got an F and mom's got to sign it and bring it back. They should all be thanking Christian Benford right now for that. Phenomenal. Safeties, Cole Bishop, he's fine. Did he stick out with a huge play? No. Did he make mistakes? Safeties are about not making mistakes sometimes, just as much as making big plays. He was fine. Jordan Poyer, man, I'm respecting his game more and more every week, and he's becoming further and further removed from feel-good sentimental story and more now towards useful starting safety on this football team. He came up. He had a really nice run hit. He got beat, I think, once. That's okay. Again, let's remember who the opponent and the quarterback is in this football game. I thought he was great. I thought Poyer and Bishop together without making a big play were good. They were really good. Cam Lewis in this game, to me, was a disaster. All right? I'm not down on Cam Lewis, period. But this was just one of those days at the office that you really want to forget. He was victimized a lot. He missed a big tackle on a third down conversion early in the game that cost them because they would have forced a punt. Instead, they ended up scoring a touchdown. So I put some of that on Cam Lewis. I thought he was a disaster, but the other guys were good.
Yeah, exactly right. I ended up with a B for them for every reason you said. Poyer and Bishop led the team in tackles once again. So they're just doing the consistency thing, which is what you want from a safety.
Yeah. Let me, real quick, I want to go back to the corners in that specific Christian Benford touchdown. You said you started yelling. I sat there actually in stunned silence. I was legitimately stunned. I was on the couch and I watched the game with my wife and she was like, you know what I mean? She was almost speechless. It was so stunning because to that moment, not just in this game, but Joe Burrow has just absolutely owned the Buffalo Bills defense. He's owned them. He has not made any kind of significant mistake at all against them. And then bam, that happens. And then bam, the very next play is A.J. Epinesa with the interception. I was like, what's happening here? This doesn't happen for the Bills, especially when they play the Bengals. It just triggered my memory because it was just so wild. All right, special teams. This is a quick, easy one. I feel like they didn't punt, literally. They had one field goal attempt, right, in this game. The kickoff coverage was pretty good. The returns were terrible. They only averaged 21.7 yards per kickoff return. I'm very uneventful. Sometimes I guess uneventful is fine, though, with special teams, but there were none really to special teams in this game.
No penalties.
I'm forgetting something.
No penalties.
No penalties. That is right.
Although former Bills linebacker Joe Giles Harris did have a penalty for the Bengals. So maybe no. I gave them an A. Like you said, solid day, nothing spectacular. I was glad that they didn't have any penalties or turnovers on special teams on a day where, not the best conditions for those guys. So appreciated it.
You gave them an A? Tell you what, if I was a student going to your school and I got to pick my classes, I'd be looking for you as my teacher.
I mean, Prater was what, 4 for 4. Khalil Shakir was clean, catching those punts and returned 9 yards. Like,
all right, fine.
They didn't have anything spectacular, like out of the kickoff return stuff, but no penalties is a big deal. You dig them for penalties every week, and then they don't get a penalty.
That is fair. They probably deserve an A just for not getting a penalty, which is shocking. Yeah, you're right. That's fair. All right, coaching. I like Sean McDermott's aggressiveness in this game. I mean, he knew that this was not the opponent to play soft with. And there were times, sometimes, most coaches would go for it. There were a couple times where I'm like, some coaches might not. So I liked his aggressiveness. We talked about it earlier. I also liked him, not getting down on James Cook despite screwing up twice in the same drive and costing his team points. And then to watch Cincinnati come down and score a touchdown, it wouldn't have shocked me if he made him sit out for at least a drive. Say, hey, get your head right. You're going to have to sit this drive. Get your head right here. He went right back. He was right back on the field. So I do like that. I don't see anything wrong with his approach. This team was ready to play in this game, although the defense struggled. But again, man, sometimes you just got to tip your cap to the opponent. He had a nice time. I'm assuming he made the call, a blitz with Benford, which again, kind of saved them points before the half. I don't know. I guess I'm going on and on. Joe Brady, you give me your takes. What do you got?
One thing you didn't mention was the 2-point conversion decision after the Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir touchdown. I thought that was definitely the right decision to go for the 2-point conversion there. And because they converted it, it ended up being a big play. That point mattered a lot to how the Bengals had to approach down the stretch because they were down by 4 instead of down by 3 at different points. Excuse me. So that's why the score ended up being a 5-point game, because when they were down by 5, they went for 2 to try to make it a field goal game. And so they ended up needing a touchdown there. So that was, again, a very good call, great play call. Again, Greg Olsen showed that really, really well on the broadcast. If you were watching the broadcast, I think Joe Brady called a pretty good game, especially based on the fact that they would have scored a heck of a lot more points if James Cook and Ty Johnson could not make mistakes. So I really don't know how you can ding Joe Brady when they were going to go over 40 points with just the offense if those two players just follow through on those plays. So it's we talked about how the defense scored 7 of the points, but the Bills running backs left 11 on the table themselves. So Joe Brady, I thought, did a really nice game, especially considering the weather conditions. On defense, you're right. They didn't have an answer for the Bengals passing game. It probably would have been even worse if there wasn't snow on the ground. It just seems to be a common theme for the Bengals. So yeah, they have the best pass catching duo in the league. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That stuff's going to happen. We knew we were probably going to have to outscore them. I won my over bet, by the way. As soon as the over under came out, I just bet the over. I didn't even. It was already high, and I was like, I didn't even care. I just bet it, and it happened. So
that was like I said, I haven't gambled in like 6 years, and I said I'm really considering coming out of retirement to bet the over in that game. There was no way. I think it was like 51 and a half, 52, something like that.
That's when it opened. It ended up going up to like 53 and a half or somewhere there, like because everyone was betting the over.
Money. Still easy money. Look, I was looking up a stat. I just saw it from Anthony Prohaska over at Cover One.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills, they had a wrinkle in this game. And you see a couple of the bubbles, the whole Shakir thing, the bubble screens, whatever, with that stuff. They had a couple of swing passes, actually, to Dalton Kincaid, too. There was one or specific I remember I liked a lot. But anyway, Bills ran a lot of play action in this game, and I didn't realize it. And again, this is from Anthony Prohaska at Cover One. The Bills had a 54.8% play action rate versus the Bengals in Week 14. Second highest of the week. Their play action rate for the year, including that game, is just 23.9%. So they ran a ton of play action, which I think was to get linebackers frozen, to get the tight ends a lot of work, which they did.
They did.
EPA per pass versus Cincy was plus 0.43, which was sixth best. Their EPA per pass on the year is plus 0.23. So a significant difference. They ran a lot of play action, and I'll say this about Joe Brady. We talked about McDermott plenty. He's redeemed himself the last couple weeks now after what I thought was one of the worst coordinating performances you'll ever see against the Houston Texans. The way with their blocking schemes, it was just inexcusable and inexplicable how bad he was in Houston. But last week with Pittsburgh, you can't stop the run. It's not fun. It's not sexy, but we're going to ground and pound you, and they did that. This week, the Bengals are the worst in the NFL in defending tight ends. We all know that. And what did the Bills do? They have 11 catches for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns with their tight ends. The more play action. Joe Brady had a good week. He had a good week last week against Pittsburgh, too. So let's call off the dogs with him, at least for a little bit. I know he's always one drive away from fans unleashing their fury on him, but he's been good.
Can we talk about this right now? Bills fans, do not boo the Bills before the end of the first half when there's 10 seconds left in the game and there's snow on the ground and they're on their own 20 or whatever it was. That was, I don't usually tell fans how to fan, but come on, guys, what are we doing here?
I was a little taken back by that as well. It speaks to,
obviously they were frustrated with how the first half went, right? That's totally understandable, but they're not going to go we've seen them score that quickly before. I think of the Stephon Diggs down the seam on Thanksgiving, in perfect conditions with Stephon Diggs. They don't have that guy in their roster. there was no way they were going to run a play there.
Were you? Yeah, it was very surprising. Dude, there was 10 seconds left and they had the ball at the 26-yard line.
Yeah.
They took a knee and Bills fans booed them. Yeah, a little bit of we're living in spoiled times right now with Bills Mafia. Don't boo the Bills offense going off the field at the half. Yeah, that was kind of wild. New England Patriots, Sunday, the 11-2 New England Patriots. New England Patriots team is coming off a bye.
Yeah.
We've talked plenty about Drake May. Second in the NFL in passing yards. He's got 23 touchdowns, 6 picks. I would think, and I'm not going to go through the list right now, but off the top of my head, if we had an MVP ballot, if I had an MVP ballot anyway, he's probably second, I think, in the NFL MVP race right now. Matt Stafford is pulled way out in front, but Drake May, I could see him finishing second right now. Maybe you got Josh has a chance to crack the top 3. But anyway, my whole point is Drake May has taken a gargantuan step here in his sophomore year. Stephon Diggs is still very good, 64 catches, 705 yards this year. Henderson has gotten a lot better in the running game. The defense is for real. 7th in yards, 3rd best against the rush, although they've not been as good lately, but they're still good. If you're looking for positivity here, no Milton Williams this game. That guy is a ferocious interior pass rusher. And also, we talked about this before we started recording the show. We're talking about it in the year now, too. They haven't really beaten anybody. Well, they beat the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, so, I mean, that should count for something. But generally speaking, you look at that 11-2 record, Tampa and Carolina, beyond the Bills, is their signature wins this season. I don't know, dude. It's early in the week for me to have predictions, but this feels like a team that's they're 11-2 when they're good and they deserve to be talked about, but they're not unbeatable at all.
They're consistent. They're a perfect Mike Vrabel team. They're consistent. They don't make mistakes, and that's how they beat the Bills the first time. That's how they've won 10 straight games. If Buffalo doesn't turn the ball over 3 times, Buffalo wins that game.
Sure.
The Bills had a red zone interception in that game. If they kick a field goal instead of turning it over there, obviously like butterfly effect and all that. But it was a 1-score game and they had a red zone interception and Keon Coleman fumble on his first play of the game. So
after being benched to start the game,
and they committed 11 penalties. Like if the Bills just don't make mistakes, the Bills win that game. They outgained the Patriots. Like there's just no other way to put it. Like, don't make mistakes against the Patriots and you're going to beat them. I've been saying it for probably 25 years now. Like, just don't make mistakes and you're going to beat them.
They're 1.5-point favorites, I believe, the Bills. Are you surprised that the Bills are favored?
I saw that going when the line was released and I'm like, oh, that'll be some bulletin board material for Mike Vrabel. I'm just saying, like, that's going to be the first thing he mentions in practice on, Wednesday and probably on Monday and every day between now and then. Like, everyone's counting us out. Like, you've won 10 straight games and everyone's counting you out. Yeah, sure.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. If the Bills lose this game, New England officially clinches the AFC East with the victory, correct?
Yep, it's a hat and t-shirt game for them. They're going to have boxes of AFC East Championship merchandise on the field for this game. The Bills, like, that's the message. If I'm Sean McDermott, I'm sending to my Bills team. Like, yeah, they might clinch it next week with a win over, whoever the hell they're playing next week. I don't know, but they are not clinching it against us. We are not walking off the field while they're putting on AFC East champion hats. That's not going to happen on my watch.
I'll tell you this, Bills Mafia is very well known for going on the road and taking over stadiums. This ain't going to be one of them. They're not taking over this stadium. That is going to be a considerably hyped crowd. They have a chance to knock off the Bills and win the AFCs. Now, also, if I'm not wrong here, let's say if the Bills win this game, New England's got to go to Baltimore the next week. But even if they lose to Baltimore, in terms of a tiebreaker, from my understanding, that doesn't matter. New England still would hold the tiebreaker. For the Bills to win the AFC East, realistically, the Bills are going to have to win out. And, well, no, maybe not necessarily. The Bills are going to have to beat New England. And to win a tiebreaker with them, I believe they would need to lose to either the Jets on the road in week 17 or week 18, New England's at home against Miami. If they lose to a divisional opponent, that would bring it to the next tiebreaker. The conference record would be to the Bills' advantage because the Bills lost. They lost to Atlanta, where the Patriots would have one more AFC loss. So they need to have a tie in the division record. So losing to Baltimore, I mean, it could matter, but what really matters is that New England would have to lose to either the Jets or Miami, even if the Bills beat the Patriots, to be able to win the division, correct?
Yep, all that was correct. The first tiebreaker's head-to-head. Obviously, that would be even if the Bills beat the Patriots this week. Then it goes to AFC record. And because the Bills lost to the Dolphins, that's a really important game right now. So the Bills need either to finish a full game ahead of New England, or they need the Patriots to lose to the Dolphins or Jets.
I guess maybe if I said it didn't matter if they lost to Baltimore. Maybe it matters because maybe if they lose to Baltimore and we lose to Philadelphia, and then it still ends up in a tie, but they lose to the Jets or Miami. So if they lose to Baltimore, that would afford you to be able to lose to Philadelphia. So I take that back, what I said about the Baltimore game not mattering. It does matter, but just not in terms of a tiebreaker. It doesn't matter in that way. I'll say this too. Maybe I'm being a little more optimistic than I should. Maybe I got the homer hat on here, but Week 17, the Jets at home, you never know. The Jets aren't going to quit it. Glenn's not going to have that team quitting. I don't think they're trying to tank. They're going to play hard, so you never know what could happen in one game. But that Week 18 game, if Miami has any kind of outside chance to get into the playoffs, which is not impossible right now. I mean, they're on a nice little bit of a run here. In fact, they're in no worse shape than Kansas City and Baltimore. They're all three of them are 6-7. So plus, by the way, and plus Miami, I'm looking right now just to confirm, make sure I'm right here.
Great.
They're at Pittsburgh this week. I'm a Miami fan. I want Miami to beat Pittsburgh. I want Miami, if the Bills beat New England, I want Miami to continue winning. I guess that's what I'm getting.
I know what you're saying. Yes.
I want them to have something to play for Week 18. So at Pittsburgh this week, then they're at home against Cincy, and Cincinnati's probably going to be done at that point. Tampa at home in Miami, and at New England in Week 18. So you could be looking at a finale at Highmark Stadium where if the Bills beat the Jets and if Miami can beat New England, the Bills will win the AFC East, and we'll find out at the same time because the games will be at 1:00.
Miami at New England is the part of it that scares me because it's January in New England with Tua. The other thing that I did want to mention is that especially if the Dolphins don't completely fall apart down the stretch, they could be playing for Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa's jobs for next year. They're going to be motivated. If the wheels completely come off and he's a dead man walking, that's one thing. But I think that they're probably going to be good enough where they'll, even if it's not realistic in spirit, they'll be playing for the coach's jobs. And they probably like him enough to do that. Tua certainly is going to be playing his butt off for his job. So I'm certainly not counting the Bills out in this divisional race, until the fat lady sings.
Well, man, I'll say this too. Playing those two teams, to me, I like that. Say if it was the Giants or the Saints that you had to pull for some kind of miracle, two bad teams.
The Giants have played well.
They have sort of played well, but I don't know that you're going to get their full. Plus, right now they're in position to get the number one pick in the draft. You know what I mean? Miami's not in position to get the number one pick in the draft, and you're right. They might be playing for jobs, and they've played a lot better starting with the Buffalo game. It's the season started for them beating the Bills, and they hate Buffalo, but they also don't like New England either. So it's not like they're going to go there and lay down. And again, this is the NFL. We just watched the Saints beat Tampa in Tampa this week. I'm just saying, you never know. And it's better that they have two opportunities to lose against a divisional rival than if they had already played them. So I guess that's all I'm saying. One last thing, then we're going to get out of here. The Bills right now are currently 6. So if the playoffs started today, we'd be going to Jacksonville. We'd be talking about a Jacksonville matchup this week. The Chargers won by winning, too. A lot of people were yelling at me on Monday night while I'm rooting for the Chargers against the Eagles. My first priority is the Chiefs not making the playoffs. I care about the seeding, but there's nothing I care more about than the Chiefs not being in the playoffs. People are like, well, why? They stay there. They've been to 7 straight AFC Championship games. Let's start there. That might be a good reason. I would prefer to not have them in the playoffs. You can't lose to the Chiefs at home or on the road if you don't play the Chiefs in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So that was a big blow to them. Baltimore, Kansas City, they're in a lot of trouble, man. They're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Cincinnati way back. So I'm not of the belief that like the Bills have to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs in order for it to be considered legitimate or any of that bull crap. Like if the Bills go on a run, especially if they're a wild card team and they win 3 games on the road to get to the Super Bowl, I don't think anyone's going to be complaining. They're going to be proving everything that they need to prove. The Jaguars, the Steelers, I mean, there's no team in that division lead right now. There's no team in the AFC right now that I'm worried about on a week in, week out basis. So you can talk about like, well, you want the Chiefs to be eliminated, or maybe you want the Chiefs in, whatever it is. Like nobody's consistent enough where they've just been running over teams. I know the Broncos have won 10 straight games, but how many of them have been 1-score games? We talked about that with the Chiefs last year, and then they got throttled in the Super Bowl. It's just get in. The Bills need 1 win over the last, whatever it is, 4 games, and they're in. Like that's all they need. And then they can go on their run. They can win every single game that they're going to play in this playoffs. It doesn't scare me.
I'm not concerned right now. Like, oh, the Bills are 6 now instead of 5 because the Chargers won. I'm not worried about that right now.
Me neither.
If the Bills win 3 of their 4 last games here, 3 or 4, I'm highly confident that they will be the 5th seed. They will be they're going to make the playoffs. Even if they only win 1 game, I think they're in. If they win 2, they're for sure in. But if they win 3 of their last 4, they're definitely going to be the 5th seed. Houston scares me. Again, and in terms of Kansas City catching Houston, besides losing to them and being 2 back, Houston's remaining schedule at home against Arizona, at home against Vegas, at the Chargers. So one of those teams got to lose.
That's why the Bills only need 1 win.
Exactly. And at home against an Indy team that is not the Indy team in the first 2 months of the season. Houston's getting in the playoffs. And then you look at the Chargers. They're at Kansas City this week. They're at Dallas. They're at home against Houston, and they're at Denver. So I'm not worried about the Chargers only having 4 losses too right now. That's why I'm glad they won last night. Putting a little more distance between them and the Chiefs. So they can knock the Chiefs will be done, obviously, if they lose this week at home against the Chargers. But anyway, my whole point was I'm not really worried about the rest of the conference right now. I don't care that they're 6th. They're going to be no worse than the 5th if they just handle their business. So I'm not worried.
The Texans are probably the team that scares me the most.
Oh, yeah. I said
all
that.
7 teams. And not just because they beat the Bills. It's how they beat the Bills, and it's how they've beaten other teams this year. They've got a vicious defense that's very, very good and can cause you to make turnovers very, very quickly. And so it's that they're the team that scares me the most right now.
100%. I said that Joe from Queens a couple days ago on the show. Kansas City would still be number 1 to me. Again, I don't care how much they've struggled just because of what they've done. And I wouldn't want to play them. But aside from that, I think I'd rather play Denver or New England than I'd rather play Houston right now because it would be on the road. You know what I mean? If it's on the road, I'd rather play at Denver or at New England than play at Houston.
Yeah.
Just because of how good that defense is and also just the way they've played against the best, not even just this year. The Bills cannot figure out that Houston defense. All right, we're out the door here, but let people know what's going on specifically with Buffalo Rumblings. People want to go and check something fun out.
Sure. One of the things we're talking about at Buffalo Rumblings is like, that's the place where folks go to have Bills conversations. And so whether it's hopping into our game threads, our discussion topics, our feed posts where you can write your own stuff and then have people respond to you, and all the notifications are live so you can respond to the people that respond to you. It's just a really great place to go and have a conversation as more places are shutting down their comment sections, whether it's Pro Football Talk a couple of years ago or, message boards, whatever it happens to be. So if you want to have a conversation with other Bills fans, especially if you're not in Buffalo, and like I get to have conversations all the time when I go anywhere, everyone wants to talk about the Bills. But if you are in Miami or Charlotte or wherever, like come to Buffalo Rumblings, have your conversations there. The notification system is fully operational right now. We just rolled it out a couple of weeks ago, and it's just doing some really great stuff.
Great stuff, man. Make sure you follow Matt on his socials, Blue Sky and Twitter at Matt Rich Warren, SB Nation, and specifically here for Bills fans, make sure you go check out Buffalo Rumblings Pleasure as always, buddy.
Thanks a lot.
All right, guys, I'll be back. Brand new show. Actually, Joe from Queens is going to join me Wednesday night on the video side, 9 p.m. live Thursday podcast. A rare non-Bills recap post-game show with Joe. God only knows what he's going to want to talk about. Talk to you guys tomorrow.